Geeta Sidhu-Robb, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. It's a real pleasure to have you here. For those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us what you do?
I do a lot of things actually. I'm an entrepreneur,
Uh-huh.
an ex-lawyer turned entrepreneur. I am a mother of three. I've been a single parent since my first child in my early 20s, and I'm a kind of a and I'm a coach. I coach. I'm a business kind of strategist coach. So I coach primarily women, but high achievers. So people that are very successful sometimes or successful, but don't feel happy about their lives. Kind of are, is this it? Is this why am I here? And who am I? And kind of I help them to grow the mindset. Um, and yeah, I think that'll do.
Would that be kind of trying to bring more balance to people's lives who are already quite professionally successful? Would that be?
No, no, because I did most people I think that are quite successful don't have a work-life balance and are quite happy about it because they kind of love what they do.
Mm,
And so I'm never somebody who says, I think you should get work-life balance. I don't honestly care about that. I really care that you don't self-sabotage yourself personally,
mm,
uh, bec because you're very successful professionally. And I tend to find that the more successful women become, the more isolated they tend to become because it gets lonelier the kind of higher up you go. But there's a big difference between their professional self-confidence, their personal self-esteem.
mm.
And that's what I specialize in. Women that can be professionally very confident and personally have quite low self-esteem and don't quite know how to get there, why they got there and how they got what to do about it.
That's a really interesting comment or just difference, I guess. So what
Yeah.
inspired you to follow this path?
I ended up, I'm like like I'm a lawyer. I've spent a lot of time training as a lawyer and all this stuff. And I walked out on my last marriage, who is the father of two of my children. And I had a child before that. And it was we had built a huge business. We were very wealthy. And the further on we became, he drank more and became more violent. And we walked out of this marriage, my children and I, when my son said to me one day, I don't think we're safe. And I think we should leave before he hurts us. And I was like, and he was 5 foot, no, 6'5". And we're not. And so it was really quite dangerous. And so when I walked out, my mother was very unhappy about me leaving because culturally, she was like, I don't believe in this, and I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to give you anywhere to sleep or stay or live. And we ended up homeless, basically, with like £14 a day to live off.
What does homeless mean actually? In what was that? What did that mean for you?
That I had no home, I had
Uh-huh.
nowhere to live, and I couldn't pay for one. And I couldn't. I had £200. He emptied all our bank accounts, and we had a 8 bedroom house.
Wow.
So, like there was nowhere to go. Like we just literally were standing on the street holding a bunch of nappies and one child under one arm and the other one holding my dress, and my son was holding the nappies and I was holding the nappies, and we were standing on the street, and I was looking at the road and thinking, what do I do? Where do we go? I didn't have anywhere to go. So I didn't have anywhere to sleep. I didn't have anywhere to put the children. I didn't have anything that I knew to do at all. And my what I and I rang somebody, and he was like, "Oh, I'm really," and he had two or three houses. He had a lot of houses, and he goes, "Oh, I'm a little busy. Let me call you back." And I was like really taken aback by the fact that there was no offer of help. And so I tried two or three people and got no, no, no. And then because nobody wants to take in a woman with three kids, I suppose. And then a girlfriend of mine said, yes, come. Have you got money for a taxi? And I was like, yes. She's like, no, come. She gave me a bedroom to sleep in, to live in, which we did for the next 6 months.
So does the state not provide anything for women in that situation then? Is there nothing?
I have no idea.
Oh wow.
It's not
Wow.
really what you think about when you're standing on a street with three kids and
Yeah.
literally nowhere to go and no money to do it with. You don't think, should I just Google and see if the state has something? It's not at all what you think.
Yeah. Wow. I have so how did this is a massive transformation that you've made, and just takes me this comment about everything going really well, and then suddenly it all changes. I have a lot of my female friends who are looking for a provider, and I always try and tell them how dangerous that is to put all your power or hand over your power, earning power to someone who could potentially take advantage of that. And you could be in a situation where, everything you have it's taken away from you somehow. You know,
He
um,
wasn't my provider.
yeah, but even like
It's,
financial stability, I think that's always something
he
to.
wasn't my financial stability. None of those
Well,
things were true for me. So if you go
uh,
onto my Instagram and I talk about this, women are always like, well, it was his money, or
uh,
you're a gold digger, or this. None of those things were true. We had
uh,
together built a business over 7 years,
mm,
and we just had divvied up our responsibilities. I would close the deals and he would invest the money.
uh,
But he never did a single one of those deals without me.
wow,
I brought them in, I did them, my children had share portfolios that I had paid for.
wow.
And yeah, and I mean, you're meant to trust the person that you're in a
Yeah,
relationship
absolutely.
and married with and have two children with and live with. And it was, the trouble is when we have these conversations about don't rely on men, we somehow are making that the fault of the woman.
Yeah.
And when we say, well, what did you think was going to happen? And I'm very happy to stand here and go, none of that should have happened. And if
Mm,
it had been a man with a halfway level sense of decency, none of that would have happened. But it was a
mm,
very distinct approach that he had, that if he took everything away from me, I would have no choice but to go back to him. And
wow.
that was what it is. Because when you start to get divorced, women hang on to the kids and men hang on to the money as modes of communication. So I don't think that statement, although it sounds intelligent and logical,
Mm,
isn't does not have a basis in truth. Because if you can still have, I've made millions,
mm,
millions, and I still found myself by the age of 32, and I found myself standing on the street
wow.
with no money. So it's not always that way.
Yeah, of course, of course. I guess I'm kind of referring to the trend, which is very different from your case. The trend online we see of this, the trad wives and all of this. That people are kind of glamorizing that kind of a life of and not without realizing, because obviously you're a lot more vulnerable in that situation if you're not the contributing to the house. So,
I guess, and also the thing with the trad wife trend is that when trad wives were a thing, so if you looked at, for example, my mother and my father and many
mm,
people of that generation, although my mother always worked, but it wasn't her money that we ever used to
mm,
live. What the trad wife had a value, and it was a partnership. You go
mm,
outside of the house and work. I stay inside of the house and I work, but we have a partnership. My parents always had joint bank accounts. They always knew what they were doing. They always talked to each other, and sometimes this one prevailed and sometimes that one prevailed. Some of the trad wives I look at, and I think it's really interesting that they are creating lives and making money out of their own social media profiles.
mm,
And I hope that some of it is in a bank account that no one else has access to, which
yeah,
didn't help me because my ex managed to bribe his way through to emptying bank accounts that were even in my name. And that didn't make any difference whatsoever. So if you're with an outrageous person, then that
mm,
even won't protect you. So sometimes I just think, but yeah, absolutely. Like I'm with my children, I'm very careful and very clear about the fact that there has to be money in their own names, in their own bank accounts that only they know exist and only they have access to. It's not always the core of a healthy, trusting relationship, though, is it?
yeah. I know, because I actually interviewed a woman who's she's a divorce lawyer, and she's written a book about love and dating because she's seen how the end results, and it's kind of tracing back what, when you're not on the same page with core values. And it's super interesting that she's trying to kind of reduce her own client intake by preventing divorce.
Yeah.
Super
And
interesting.
also
Mm,
preventing the trauma, I think, that comes
mm,
from that for you, for the children, and seeing how that works. But what happened to me happens to millions and millions
yeah.
of women around the world every day. There's
Mm,
nothing unusual in what
yeah.
happened. What makes me unusual is the level of success I've had despite that.
Mm.
So that's the only unusual thing. Otherwise, it's just sod's law, isn't it? It happens again and again and again.
Yeah, it's quite it's quite scary how you can just not know someone until you've been with them for a long time,
Mhm.
and how different circumstances unravel things that you just didn't even.
Utterly petrifying.
Yeah. Wow. So tell us about your transformation. What was how did you start getting on your feet again? And what was your mindset to try and what were you thinking of doing before? What was
My
the first thing?
mindset was we are poor as hell
Okay.
and that sucks and we need to eat. And I don't know how to do that. And I don't know how to buy a pair of shoes for 14 pounds because even in those days, shoes didn't cost 14 pounds. They cost 40 pounds. And we were poor. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to, my kids are in, and they were in private school. So I
Mm.
couldn't eat, I couldn't feed them, I couldn't do anything. And I was like, I had to make a few decisions. And the first decision I made was that this is never, ever going to happen to me again. And I kind of drew a line in the sand and I was like, I don't know what brought me here, but I'm never doing this again. And then I came to the stage where I had like two pairs of shoes for like I was going to say 7 months, but I think it was the whole year. Two pairs of shoes, two pairs of trousers, and a top or something. Or no, one pair of trousers and two tops. And that's all I had. And then the children had their things, you know. And so it was a very difficult way to even think about going to work, not going to work. I couldn't leave the kids in this bedroom on their own. And so I needed to find help that I couldn't pay for. So you're always in a very, poverty is a very interesting thing. We don't, until you've been poor, you don't understand that if you just worked harder, you'd come out of poverty. It just isn't like that. There is this
Mm.
absolutely soul-sucking part of it where you are stuck being poor. You know how
Mm.
they say rich people always make money?
Mm.
And it's very true. And poor people always suffer because they stay in that poverty because it's such a trap. Um, and I was very lucky that my ex was so appalling. And I remember him saying to me when one of these days the struggle was so bad. And I remember him saying to me, you know, if you just come back, I'll make it all go away.
Wow.
And I was like, thank you so much for being such an asshole because I'm never coming back after that kind of comment. And so I had a book like this thing, very dog-eared book, and I would small, and that's obviously got coffee stains on the back. And there were completely blank pages. And what I would do every night is I would draw a line down the middle of the page. And I would, on the right-hand side, I would write everything I had to do the next day. And on the left-hand side, I would write everything the universe had to do for me
Oh,
because
that's amazing. I love it.
yeah. So I was like, this is what I don't know how to do. I don't know how to move out of this one bedroom. So you need to find me a home. I don't know how to buy the shoes. I don't know how to pay school fees. I don't know how to get a job because because he also bankrupted me. And so I couldn't work as a lawyer anymore. So I had no way of making any money out of my own skill sets that I had spent years building and going to school to develop. So I did that every single day. And I would go for 1 hour, 2 hour long walks because I couldn't, you know, when they were sleeping, because I couldn't wind myself down. It was terrible. Um, so I did that every day. Every day. I was like, here's what I need to do. Here's what the universe is going to do. And now when the universe pushes me
Mhm.
in certain directions, I laugh because I co-opted the universe then and it's not going anywhere. It's staying right here to keep pushing me in a direction.
So when you say pushing you, do you mean challenging you, like giving you circumstances that you're trying to navigate that are difficult?
Now, no, because
Uh,
now there was a place where I went through a prayer of, please let me learn my lessons more easily.
uh,
Just let me learn it easily. If there's an easier way to do something, I'm willing to learn that and do it because I don't want to do difficult anymore. I hate the drama. I hate the difficulty. Let's just learn it easily. Now, what tends to happen is I kind of feel like the universe has its foot pushed up my ass and it's going this way.
okay.
Okay.
Oh wow. So tell us how does when does things start working out for you, and what was the first steps of, let's say, being on the path to success?
The first steps was, you know, I went in, there was a guy who dropped his children off at school with my kids, and he had a dry cleaners around the corner from here. And it was a very famous dry cleaners, but it wasn't open. And I was like, what's going on? And he goes, oh my God, I cannot get the council to pay attention. Blah, blah, blah. They won't give me a license. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, do you mind if I have a go? And he went, oh my gosh, please have a go. And I didn't want to say, and will you pay me? But that's what I meant. So
Hmm.
I rang up the council, lovely woman who was like, yeah, absolutely, got it sorted in about 2 hours. And I went to him and I said, oh, I've got the license for you. And I did not understand how much money dry cleaners made. I promise you, if I had, it would have been a different conversation. And he said, what do you want? And I was like, 200 quid. And he went, are you serious? Don't you want more? And I was like, no, really, that's fine. Because you know, I didn't know. And he was like, well, he made kafillions out of that dry cleaners. So he gave me 200 quid. And what he did was he sent me his friend. And his friend said, I can't do this. Can you help me? And I was like, yeah. And then I did that. And then he sent me someone else. And it was that funny thing that I didn't understand anything they were asking me to do. And I would be sitting there, like I'm talking to them going, absolutely, while I'm Googling whatever this word means that they want me to do. I just did it for the money. And so then somebody said, can you negotiate telecom spectrum? And I'm just like, sure. And I'm like, telecom spectrum, not a bloody clue, not a bloody clue. And I just Googled it and I was like, absolutely, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I finagled my way, desperation is a fabulous thing, into a room where there was this conversation and I wanted, and I'm like, I really need this. I don't know what to help. And people were just fantastic about helping when you ask for help. So then I got another, and then I didn't get any big amounts of money. So we were still
Mhm.
hand to mouth. And then my friend came to see me and he was building, he had two schools in India. And the boys' school they paid for a roof over the school, but the girls' school, nobody was paying for a roof because they didn't care if the girls went to school. And he was so cross about it. And he was just like in this small space going, it's so annoying, Geeta, it's so annoying. And I was like, I'm sure it is. I wish I could give you the money. I've got like £17. And he was like, I don't want your money, but I need £1,000 to build this roof on this school. How dare these girls not get educated? I said, I tell you what, if I get any money, I'll give you 10% towards the roof. And he went, I'll take it. And then we finished and he went off and whatever. And the next morning, Venus, the next morning, I had somebody come in and the contract payment was £10,000.
Wow, amazing. So you got the 10, you got his 1,000.
That not simple. I did not want to give him that money. I was like, I don't want to give you this money. I have this money. This is why it happened because I promised to give it to you. And I'm like, I'm not giving it to you. And he went, Geeta. I'm like, I can't give it to you. It's too much money. I had £14 yesterday and I've got £10,000. I can't give you £1,000. Don't make me. And he's just laughing at me down the phone. I'm like, please don't make me. I actually made a video about it because I was in tears because it
Mhm.
was so much money. How can I
Mhm.
just give you okay, they're doing badly, but hello, I'm doing badly. What about me and my children? I cannot tell you. I was so traumatized. Of course, I gave him the 1,000, but I was so hard. It was so hard. And I have consistently given money away since then, every time I make money. So, yeah.
So at first you were discovering your own kind of negotiation skills. Was that the first thing you were working on? The first way you're making money?
I think I was, yeah. I mean, I was always able to persuade people to do things, but I
Uh,
didn't. It makes it very different when it's whether you eat or don't eat, you
mm,
know. And so, and with women, the thing about being pretty young women is there's always a man that's willing to come and pay your bills. There was always somebody willing to pay my bills or marry me or do any of those things. And it was a really conscious, difficult decision to not sell my body first.
oh yeah.
That was
Mm,
the decision that preceded all my decisions. And I talk about this a lot because it's really important. I chose not to do that. And it doesn't matter to me if somebody chooses to do that, but you should make that decision consciously. And I
mm,
consciously was like, no. And I consciously was like, never again am I getting married. Well, not never again, but that's not what I want to do. And I didn't want a man to come and look after me because the statistics of taking your young children into another man's house are very bad, especially
yeah.
young guys, you know. So I was like, well, I'm not doing any of those things. So therefore, there has to be an alternative. And when you close doors, the universe helps you find other open doors.
Absolutely, absolutely. I saw something on your Instagram about people pleasing. That's something about with women we kind of we're quite, I don't know, say good at or bad at, but something that we should let go of.
Yeah, and pleasing comes to me when I teach it and when I'm coaching with it, it's three levels. It's people pleasing, cultural pleasing, family pleasing.
Mhm.
And we do end up really intermeshing all three of those things. So we don't know where they start and where they finish. We just know that we're doing what we think we should do. And we think we should, the way in which we should do it, and for the people for whom we should do it, without getting back any gratitude or rewards or anything like that. Um, and so giving up people pleasing was a very, very big step for me. Not being a good girl, not caring what people thought, having to give up what anyone else, because when you're poor and a female, nobody wants you around there because I lived in a very wealthy neighborhood, very wealthy friends. None of them wanted me anywhere near their husbands. Like, so
Mm,
because I was going to blow up my brain and walk off with their husbands, you know? And so you're very isolated and everybody wanted me to disappear and not be in their face.
mm.
And I was like, I'm not gonna. That took a lot of strength to not hide.
Wow, definitely. So let's think of the journey. So then you started doing these negotiations for other people. How did it become coaching? What was the next step in your?
Well, then
Evolution.
I did that for a while. I used
Mhm.
to fly around after a while because it would be bigger and bigger and bigger deals. And every time I did that, I left the kids behind,
Mhm.
and my son was anaphylactic. And he had really bad anaphylaxis, like he was in hospital and comas. And every time I went away, I would spend my life worrying about the children. And I was like, there must be a way for me to work from home. So I set up a health and wellness business because it's what I need to do because of my son. And I had cured his eczema, cured his asthma, and I'd helped him. And so um, when I started this health and wellness business, so in the UK, we were the first home delivery of gluten, dairy, egg-free food. We were the first company that ever delivered juice fasts. We were the first that ever did cold pressed juices. We were the first that did um, IV drips on the high street. So had all these massive firsts that we were doing. Um, and so we were very well known because we were a business that kept doubling every year. But I had never built a business, so I didn't know that was normal or not normal. And we needed the money, so we were going to grow because I needed the money to pay my bills. And God bless Nosh Detox because it really paid for us and my family to survive. In the process of that, we got a lot of women in the door, and
Mm.
they were very, very famous because there was no other company in the UK, 2007, 2008, that actually did any of this stuff. So one day this woman rang me and said, I'd just like to talk to the owner of the company. And I was like, when you kind of go, that's me, because you're waiting for the headmistress to tell you off. And she was somebody from Vogue. And she said, Gwyneth Paltrow says you're her favorite detox.
Oh, nice.
I was like, she does. And she was like, yeah. I was like, hallelujah. And she's like, I just need to find out. And so it was amazing because we couldn't afford PR. Obviously, we couldn't get a bank loan. And it was, I mean, it's so like one of my best friends who was growing a business at the same time was white and Cornish, and her business, she got an overdraft of 110 grand in the same revenue stream, same amount of money as me. And I got an overdraft of £10,000 at the same, because brown women, just single parents, are not to be told, here, have an overdraft, we'll want to help. There was, so you had to make money. There was no other way to survive. And so she came in, and then she sent her friend, and they sent her friend. Then this woman turned up one day, who was very perfect. She was exquisite, and everything was perfect. And she wanted to lose weight, and I said, I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. I'm like, you're far too thin. There's nothing. And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. If you've got somebody else who'll deliver to you, be my guest. But we were the only company in town. And she was like, I can't believe you're refusing to serve me. And she was American. And I said, well, because it's the wrong thing for you to do. What you should do is this. And I fought a lot in those early years saying, and then other companies set up and you could buy it from anywhere. But when we were the only game, I was like, you cannot lose more weight. That's not what your problem is. So I said, that's actually quite stupid. And she was like, what? And walked out. When she came back, let's be clear, the office was in my house because I wasn't going to pay for an office, and you had to take off your shoes and you had to cut, it was like this. And so she came back about 3 days later going, can you do that again and I pay you for it? And I was like, for what? She goes, calling me stupid. I was like, obviously she had a sense of humor, but I was like, oh my God, I did not mean to call you stupid. And she's like, yeah, and then I was like, so how much do I charge you? And she was like, oh, I'll give you 250 quid an hour. I was like, well, I'll do it. And this was 20 years ago, 10 years ago. And I was just like, oh my God, that is so much. I mean, even now it's so much money. Um, and so I saw her, and then she sent me her friend, and then she sent me her friend, and then she sent me her friend. And we ended up working with two of the Spice Girls, Nadia Swarovski, Gorinda Chadda, who made Bend It Like Beckham, um, Rachel Stevens from S Club 7, Simon Cowell, just people, the royal family, they just one after another. And it was just, and I was like, oh my God, this is coaching. Apparently it was called coaching. I was like, yay. And then at some stage I thought I should get a coaching qualification. So I did. And that's how I became a coach. And
Mm.
so then I started to make actual serious money.
Mm.
Because until then it would come in and we would spend it growing the business, paying the bills. And coaching gave us the opportunity to really, actually breathe.
Mm. So what was the moment like when you felt that you could breathe, the transition from, let's say, poverty and struggle
Never,
and then to actually feeling relaxed and safe
never.
and
No, never.
yeah.
Just never. Because
Uh,
I mean, I don't think I felt like that till about 3 years ago. You just
oh
never
well.
did, because because
Because expenses are higher growing with you, or
the
is
expenses grew as well. I
mm,
think the trauma of having hadn't gone through that, and
mm,
I worked on my health every single day because I was a single parent, and if I got sick, the children would have to
mm,
go to either my mother or my ex-husband, and I was like, that's never happening. And so I ended up, but honestly, I don't think, I think that as a mother, what you're doing is you'll push yourself harder, which I
mm.
did because I wanted more for my kids, but I just never worked through that trauma until very recently. So I never felt safe.
You never had time really, or you never made
No, it would
time.
have felt like
Mm,
an indulgence when instead I
mm.
was trying to do all these things, yeah,
Wow. Oh,
um,
that's such a big journey.
yeah,
Yeah, because I remember there's an interview that I really love with Oprah Winfrey and J.K. Rowling, 'cause, and she asks her, "When did you know you made it?" And she says, "When I didn't have to choose between two things, I could have both."
yeah.
Because poverty just gives you such brilliant lessons. I think people, it's very hard, when you're especially when you're wondering how you're going to eat, and you know,
It's a very, I mean, and it
mm,
really overwhelms your thought processes because you
mm,
don't think about anything else. And the way we understand the way my value system works is the more desperate I feel, the worse my life gets, right?
yeah,
But when you're really poor, the desperation is just undercover everything. It's just your core starting point. So, I mean, I would have to go and make speeches about because I was our PR, right? And that's how I got publicity for the business to grow the business to make more money. And so I did a lot of TV, a lot of radio, a lot of all of this stuff. And people would ring me. I remember ringing a friend of mine who's a really very famous woman. And I was like, oh, have you got a minute? Have you got a minute? And she went, what's up? What's up? I said, I'm going to go make, I was literally in my car parked on a street. And I said, I've got to go and make a speech about being inspiring. And I can't remember how to do it. I can't remember what's inspiring. And I don't feel inspiring. And I don't know what to say. And she was so fun. I mean, a very good friend. So she just laughed at me and said, don't be such a twat. Do it and then come around for dinner afterwards and I'll buy you a drink. Just get up there and hung up on me. And I thought, well, that's rude. What am I going to do now?
I've been the best inspiration.
Right. And so you never felt, it took me till honestly 2, 3 years ago. I
Mm,
never felt successful. I never felt inspiring. I didn't understand it as a
mm,
concept because how, like, no, I mean, well, I don't know. Like, I've never woken up thinking, wow, I'm so inspiring.
mm,
No, it just isn't how your brain works, right?
You just got on with it all the
Yeah.
time. You mentioned earlier when you were in this desperate situation where, friends didn't want you to be around their husbands, so there's lack of support. But also, I've seen it on your Instagram recently when you're at the top, when you saw there's a post about only working with famous people that you lost 80% of friendships overnight. So why do you think that happens? That at the top and at the bottom, the support systems.
That's a very good way of putting it. I've never thought of it. It's true.
Yeah.
Like any extremes that women exhibit, you get punished for them.
Mm,
So that I really like that, Venus. I've never thought of it as being the top and the bottom, but it's very true. Like I remember the first time I did national TV, um, I literally like 80% of the people I knew didn't speak to me after that. And it was just I did not expect that at all. And I didn't know what to do about it because you can't ring up people and go, why aren't you my friend anymore? Because that's pathetic. Um, and I think that as women are either desperate or extremely successful, the extremes that we go to, society punishes you for not being within the norm of what it expects of women. And
mm,
so and it holds it against you and you pay the price for it. And I was like, the highest price I had to pay was my kids not having food and a place to live, and so everyone else could go to hell. That was my core priority. And whatever your opinion of me is, I don't care. It's none of my business. You should think what you like of me. Here's what I need to keep my children safe. And so I just did what I was going to do, and I carried on doing it, and never, ever, never cared because what are you going to do for me lately? You know.
mm.
And it stood me in good stead, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's very, very disappointing with people, though, I guess, because when we think we have, people who have our backs. But I think sometimes there are less people when you're doing well, because they say a friend in need is a friend indeed, unless you kind of want to stay at their house, and that could be that may be where the line is. But then people usually have more empathy than there's in Spanish. There's a great expression. It's called envidia sana, which means healthy envy. So it's envy without
But not
resentment.
jealousy.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful expression. That sometimes I think it's great for you. I wish I had it, but I celebrate you And but sometimes people want to associate you with, which happened with you as well when you became more successful, and then people are like, oh, I know her, and I know her really well. And there's these people who
We
didn't
used to have a
take you.
joke at yeah, we used to have a joke at work with Nosh when somebody would ring up and then they'd say just a moment and they'd press the button and go another friend of Geeta's and the whole office would laugh because my friends would never ring up and ask for a discount. You know, they
Uh,
just wouldn't. It's just not what they would do. So you just knew that the person doing that wasn't a friend, you know. Um, but on the other hand, I should say that the number of people that were kind,
mm,
that helped me, that were, oh, I was doing a speech, a really huge, big speech about 4 weeks ago, and I was terrified. I was literally one of the who books me regularly for speeches was telling her team, she's like, Geeta's fine till 3 minutes before she goes live. Put her in a corner, give her a glass of water, ignore her, go back when you need her. She'll just fall apart. And I'm like, it's so true. It's so true. And it doesn't matter that this is my job and I've done it for 20 years. It's so true. So there I am, happily falling apart. I was fine till I walked into the room. And then they said, do you want to come sit at the front of the room? And I'm like, oh, no, 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 I'm really good. I mean, like, it was a big, huge deal. I'm like, no, no, I'm really good over here. And I'm sitting on a table and there's a woman standing here and a woman sitting here. And by the time I was called to speak, they were both holding my hand because they were like, you'll be fine. You will be. I mean, I must have looked like I was about to burst into tears. They were like, you'll be completely fine. Don't worry about a thing. And they were holding my hand. And I was like, these are two women I have never met in my life before. And
mm,
they are doing their level best just to hold me together so I can go, you know, and so I don't think this is a people thing
mm,
necessarily. I think it was those people thing.
yeah.
Um, and then there are other people that are kind and generous and supportive, men and women, you
Mm,
know.
definitely, definitely. Yes. So, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing your clients or women these days?
I think our biggest challenge facing us as women is our is ourselves.
Mm,
I think we are so much in our own way. We don't know how to ask for the things that we need. And we don't know how to be the best versions of ourselves because the way women are brought up, they're not brought up to ask for anything. They're brought up to provide, they're brought up to nurture, they're brought up to cherish. It's all an external facing thing. And so a lot of the conversations I have that are really tragic is talking to really successful women that will turn over 100 million a year in a business. And you're saying, listen, you have a problem with your self-esteem. And they're going, what do you mean I have a problem with my self-esteem? And I'm like, you really have a problem with your self-esteem, you know, and trying to get them to understand that they can be wildly successful at work, but really unsuccessful at believing in themselves or loving themselves or not self-sabotaging, you know, the persona they have at work, the persona we as women create at work bypasses our people pleasing and all of those things, but the one we are at home does not.
mm,
So we are very bad at asking for our needs because we don't know what our needs are. We're very bad at looking after ourselves because we don't know how to do that. We don't know how to take ourselves seriously. And we also struggle with power. We struggle with being powerful. And what changed for me was that I had to take myself seriously. Otherwise, nobody else was going to. I was a young, pretty girl, you know, brown girl with three small kids and no established ecosystem. So I was very disposable. And that was really difficult. And also I had no power. And I committed to being, I'm a very, to today, I'm a very powerful woman in myself. And it's something I love about myself. I nurture that, I look after that, and I take myself very, very seriously for me. Now, I'm deeply childish and superficial and will, you know, I'll do all of those great things because they matter to me, but I won't compromise where it is about what it is that I want.
mm, that's great. So you said, I think on your Instagram that you only work with famous people. Is that correct?
I don't only work with famous people, but I work with, when I first started off, sorry, there's a doorbell. Can you hear that?
I'm not gone at all, actually. No,
Do you mind if I open the
no problem.
door?
We'll cut
Edit.
the. Yeah,
I'm
fine. Yeah.
so sorry.
Hmm.
Thank you very much.
Actually, I'm just need a birthday.
5777. I am sorry.
No problem. We'll just cut it out.
Do
So
you
it's
want to
something
ask
as
me again or shall I answer it?
famous people.
Yeah. I remember. It's not that I only work with famous people. I started off my coaching career
Mm.
as working with famous people. I just work with women. I work
Mm.
with I work with men as well, but I love working with women. And I work with successful women, women that are, trying to transition out of being a housewife into going back to work. I work with like I had one of my clients who came in and she was turning over 15 million in her business, and we started coaching, and it took us 7.5 years to take her to 52 million and doing an IPO,
Oh, wow.
And so you can take somebody who's already doing well, and when you let them see the biggest version of themselves, they go stratospheric, and it's like taking off like a rocket. So it isn't only famous. It's just that the famous part just gets attention, you
Mm.
know. But honestly, I have the best job in the world on
That's
every
great.
level. Yeah,
Amazing. Something I saw on your Instagram as well about mentioning the divine feminine. I think sometimes when women are very successful, that can be kind of hard. I don't know if you feel that way, or some women find it hard to embody the feminine strength. What would you say about that? What do you mean by divine feminine?
I agree completely. I think
Mm.
that when you are a woman, your power comes from the integral part of who you are. And when you're a man, it's your divine masculine. When you're a woman, it's your divine feminine. But in order for us to be successful, we've had to turn into men at work,
Mm.
and unless we set up on our own. And so when I'm talking to women, I have this funny thing where I'll be like, can I see your underwear? And they'll be like, I'm sorry, what? And I'm like, up, up, up. And I'll check out, and if it's ratty and it's torn, it will tell me everything about you. It will tell me everything about you. No, no, really, I'm vicious. I'm like, so shall we start working from the inside out? And they're like, bitch. And I'm like, no, really. If you're not willing to wear underwear that feels good just for you, I have
Yeah.
a huge job to get you to take yourself seriously. Because, oh, but no one's going to see. You'll see it.
Mm. But how you
You
feel.
will. And
Yeah.
in this day and age of fast fashion, where you can get cheap, nice underwear, what
Yeah.
are you doing? So that it's such silly things where those are the things that you have to take into account. And teaching women that femininity is not what we was publicly represented. We represent femininity as being weak, as being, emotional, gossipy, really negative. But actually, that's not true. The divine
Mm.
feminine is incredibly powerful. It's very encompassing, it's nurturing, it's a platform for growth. And you make babies from this platform, you give life from this platform. But if you're not willing to be feminine, and the other question I ask coaching clients is if they have sex with their partners,
Mm.
because the number of people that are in long-term relationships and they do not have sex is shocking. And it's because angry women will not have sex with you. If a woman is angry with you, she's not having sex with you. And so it's trying to, and it's very funny because like of the heterosexuals, about halfway through coaching, you'll get husbands calling you going, can I pay off that coaching? I'll pay off the rest. And I'm like, yeah, sure, if you want to, because it's changing, it's forcing intimate conversations. So where you're the girl and he's a man, and you can let
Mm.
him be a man and you can stay the girl. It
Mm.
does not change my personality if I clean my house, and in the same way it does not change my personality if I change a light bulb. But to be
Yeah.
able to say to the man sitting there, that light bulb just doesn't work. And
Yeah.
he's like, yeah. And I'm like, if only someone knew how to change that light bulb. It's just like tragic. I just don't know, and it's funny. And because obviously you know how to change the bloody light bulb. But why would you?
Yeah. Yeah. I had to put this neon on my wall, and obviously I don't have screwdrivers. So I just find a male friend to come over with tools.
Yeah, and they love it. But don't you
Yeah.
find they just love it?
Oh, yeah. It's like anything else you need. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because men love to provide. So
Mm.
stop going into their space and doing the providing. Let them
Mm.
provide, right?
Mm.
Men are not hairy women. They just aren't.
Yeah.
Let them be men and you be women. It's like speaking German to somebody who's Japanese and expecting them to understand and hating them when they don't understand it.
Mm. So
They do.
where do you think feminism and divine feminine come together, or if at all? I mean, 'cause there's always a kind of a sticky topic, sometimes with let's say with chivalry and
I love chivalry.
I love chivalry too, but I think men are a
Oh,
bit confused about that, should I open the door or not?
no, I mean, honestly, I think that if you're going to open the door for me or you're going to lift my bag for me, I'm going to love you a lot. I'm like,
Yeah.
feel free to do that. You're a wonderfully strong, hot, good-looking man. You go. But
Mm.
Doesn't change who I am on any level.
Mhm.
If you need, I think the place where we need to carry things to an extreme are the places where we don't feel safe in those things. So we have
Mm.
to exaggerate them so that we have a reflection of them, you know? Whereas if you're sitting heavily in your divine feminine, there is so much power inherent in that. I don't have to argue with you or fight with you in order to receive from that space.
Mm.
And I think what we misunderstand, and I say this a lot to my clients, I say, what if everything is your responsibility? What if you cannot change anyone outside of you at all, and you could only change who you are? What would you then do? You would change who you are. I became who I am today by saying, only thing I have to change is me. I've tried everything else. I can't do anything. It's me. I will change me, and then I will see what happens.
Well, you're doing so many things. So what are your your productivity secrets? If you have the secrets, how do you divide your time with different tasks?
I work so hard, but I
Mm.
love everything that I do. My productivity secrets, I touch everything once.
Mm.
I'm going to touch it. I'm going to deal with it. I don't want to look at it again. um, because it's such a pain in the ass doing that. I automate everything. If we've done it as a team, if we've done something 3 times, the fourth step, it has to be automated. You have to send it in, say, this has to be automated because I've done it 3 times. It shouldn't have to be done again. I delegate, delegate, delegate. So I have somebody who, in my private life, somebody who cooks and cleans and irons. I don't do any of that because I cannot work 12 hours a day and do that, you know. I always wanted to see the kids, so I prioritized. I teach this thing called the balance sheet technique, and I'm like, what if every day had a profit and loss account, and you had a balance sheet that was your week, the 7 days?
Mm.
Start by putting all your priorities into your calendar. That's your calendar, these
Mm.
7 days, and then add the rest of your life in after that. So I would put in working out, I would put in knowing that I have a good meal coming, I would put in, when am I sleeping, and then because I wanted to spend time with the kids, my offices were always in my home. And which is funny because you had all these huge executives turn up and I'd be like, so your shoes go over there and you come in here with your socks, and I was like, you don't have to come in, of course, but if you're coming in, this is how you're doing it. And so I worked from home so that I could run out and pick up the kids and be here and they would see me even though, I had to work. So yeah, I just adapted my life for my priorities only and for nothing else. And then, we got COVID and the world caught up with me, but I've been working from home for 20 years.
Yeah, I also had a pre-COVID life before COVID.
Yeah.
It's kind of
You're doing
easier.
exactly the same thing, right?
Yeah, the 16 years. Yeah, yeah. So how do you unwind? What do you do to enjoy yourself when you're not working?
I spent all day talking, like because I'm coaching and so
Mm.
by the time I'm done, I'm like, please can I not talk to anyone else again? And I wanna sit somewhere and I go for a walk and I read a book. I'm a bookworm. I've recently got addicted to again baking. So I'll bake something because my brain calms down as I use my hands. Um, uh, Most of my good girlfriends don't live near me, which is really sad. And I
Mm.
hate the telephone. So, but otherwise, that would be a great way to kind of go for a drink and hang out. If anybody's in town that I love, I'm like, oh my God, yay. Because I'm not madly social.
Mm.
I spend a lot of time on my own.
Okay, it's good to be good on your own, though, isn't it? It's a really important
You're very
skill.
happy. Yeah. But sometimes it
Yeah,
goes too far and you
yeah,
need a balance.
definitely, definitely. Yeah. So a couple of questions I ask all of my guests. What is the book that changed your life?
I don't even know how to answer that. There are so many because I'm an inveterate bookworm.
Mhm.
I read 5 books in a week.
Oh, wow.
I'm like a proper full-on bookworm. So I remember Dale Carnegie. I remember reading because we lived in this street where there was no TV, there was nothing. There was one street and a farm in the middle of nowhere. Um, and so books were my only solace. And I remember being 13 or 14 and I read Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence
Mm.
People. And I was like, oh, because I was this gawky kind of kid. And I was like, so you can like do that, you know, and being charming has become part of my persona because I would rather you were happy doing something with me than not.
Mm.
That's my definition of charming, as opposed to manipulating.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, probably from when that I read that book.
Amazing. What you're reading at the moment?
Everything. Yeah, I've got everything. I'm like,
Do you have Kindle or do you have real books? What do you like?
no, I don't anymore. I have Kindle
Uh,
because I end up buying so many books. Like if you
mm.
look behind, yeah, I just
Yeah.
had rooms full of books. And I just did not. I'm trying to think. What a really good book that I've been reading at the moment is this magic. It's the Physics of Miracles.
Oh, I love it. Who wrote that?
I promise you, it's the best book. Richard Bartlett. It's tapping into the field of consciousness potential.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The other book that I read recently that was utterly brilliant was Unreasonable Hospitality
And
by
what's
Will Guidra. He set up 11 Madison Park Gardens. That
Oh,
was
wow.
amazing. Oh my God, such a good book. And then, I mean, I read a lot of romance fiction, which we don't need to go into. Just so you know, I do. Um, there was another one, Richard Bartlett. Then I find one man, and I read a woman. I
Okay.
read everything they've like Richard Bartlett. I just was like Noah St. John. I'll read anything he's ever written, and I just read them all. I love all the Abraham Hicks stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I like kind of quantum physics, and I like woo, and I like all of that stuff. Because the thing with woo is my clients need an explanation why I'm asking them to do something. So I use quantum physics as a way to explain the woo that I want
Yeah.
them to do
In a more grounded kind of
and
way.
why it works. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I love, I'm a thwarted physicist somewhere deep in my heart. So I just love how that works. But, those are two amazing books.
Amazing. I'll write them down. I'm currently reading a book from a future guest called The Power of Enough. It's about wealth embodiment. It's just become a bestseller. She's called Elizabeth Husserl. I'm going to interview her in 3 weeks.
Oh,
Because I actually interview authors, which is amazing. Would you ever think about writing your own book?
yeah, I've written two.
Hmm.
And no, I've written three. I published one about 700 years ago. My mother, I think, is the only person that still has a copy. I wrote a biography and I read it and I was like, I'm never, this is too open. I'm not doing that. And then I wrote a book on the way that I think you should retrain your mind.
Oh, wow.
And I've never published either of those. And so I have a couple of friends who are really pushing me quite hard.
Mm.
Um, and I'm like, yeah, so yeah,
Mm.
I just, oh my God, the book I wish I had written when I grow up is called Unbound. Have you read Unbound?
Oh, I'm bound. Yeah, the dominatrix or the
Kasia Urbaniak,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
life changing. Oh my God, that's the
It's
best book.
amazing. Yeah.
I'll get there eventually. I think I'll get there, but
Yeah.
yeah.
You mean about the power of asking for things? What is it about that impressed you?
I just love the way she talked about power.
Yeah.
Because I think that as women we are too afraid to manage and
Mm.
manipulate, retain power. And we think of power as a masculine construct, and as I said, I'm very powerful. I like being powerful. I enjoy my power, and I'm keeping it. I'm
Yeah.
not giving it up for anyone or anything. And the more women that stepped into their power and kept that power, the better we'd be as a world.
Yeah. Because I think also as women, we're not good at asking for the right prices. Like you mentioned earlier, when you were just £200 for what
Very
did that
bad.
mean? We're just so
I'm
bad at that.
very, yeah,
Mm.
I'm very expensive as a coach.
Yeah.
I really like that about me. So
Did it take you time to get to the level that you are now in terms of confidence?
and it
Yeah.
was not anyone outside, it was me. So I started
Mm.
off at $100 an hour. And
So
then
what is the mindset shift that you made from going, let's say, from affordable to high ticket? What is that shift internally? What is
it's
it?
always internal. It's
Mm.
always you. It's not anyone else at all. It's always you. And it's always about what you're willing to receive and how you're willing to value yourself and see yourself. And
Mm.
I would find that I knew what my limit was because I would say, okay, I'm now charging £250 an hour, right?
Mm.
And then I'd be like, okay, so the next time a client came in, I would test and I would say it's £300 an hour. And they
Mm.
would go, if they said yes, you knew you were fine at that level. If they said no, you had gone too high. Then I'd come back down and I'd do 260.
Mm.
And then somebody would say yes, and then I'd go with 260, and then the next time I would do 270 or 290, and that's how I did it. I literally tested my upper limits all the time to see what I was willing to accept.
Amazing. I've got this my technique myself for my work. I do an ROE tax, which is return on energy. Like, can I be bothered with this? If it's something that I'm not really inspired by, I'll just make it really expensive. They'll probably, if
I
they say
agree.
no, I don't really care.
Like there are clients, right? And you're just like, oh my God, I should
They're
have
going to
charged
drain me
more.
so much.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I have clients like that I just put the price up and up and up. And then I
Mm.
think, wow,
Yeah.
okay.
Do you have any messages for your younger self when you were in that situation of desperation? What would you say when you just arrived at your friend's house in one bedroom? What would you say to that version of
I
yourself?
don't know that I have. I think I'm the same person in those terms today than I was then. You know, you
Mm,
can do this, you're well able and you can do it.
mm,
It wouldn't have made me relax anymore. Right. I
mm.
mean, sort of being poor and hungry is shitty. It's
Yeah.
pretty. So I don't understand that concept. I know what you mean, but I'm like,
Uh,
what would I have said that would make it better? Trust yourself. I was.
yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I was doing it anyway. And the other question I get asked a lot is, do you regret any choices? And you know, I just don't. I just
Mm,
did what I did because that's the best I could do at the time, and that's what happened. So
mm.
I don't know that I have any messages to pass to my younger self except thank God you survived it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have a quote that you live by or
Yeah, I
affirmation?
always I yeah, I always forget it because I write it down more intelligently than I say it. But I think that if you can, I always say that if you can think it or dream it, you can make it happen. It's yours to make happen. Bottom
Amazing.
line. And so I do that. I create these huge things, um, and I do them because I'm like, oh, there's a thought, and then I don't think, oh well, there's a thought. I'm like, oh, therefore, if I thought it, I can clearly make it happen.
Yeah.
So okay, and then I go and I make it happen because I thought it, because it's
Mm,
mine.
mm.
So that really saves me a lot of soul searching. I just get on with it.
So what's you had some big awards as well and recognitions from for your work. Would you like to share what they are?
Well, you sound like such a twit, don't you, when you
No, not at all. Own it. Own it.
Yeah, we've had a lot. We've
Mm,
been really blessed. I've won one Entrepreneur of the Year 5 times
hmm.
over time. As a team, we won like 10 medals for the products and the service and the this and the this. I won an award at the UN 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago for that speech I didn't want to make. And we have a business called W Core, which is my new startup, which is where we're going into workplaces and making them supportive workplaces for women. So the infrastructure helps a woman to have her periods and whatever and still stay at work. And, you know, we for that business, it's a year and 2 months old. We've won Disruptor of the Year, Advocate Equity Workplace of the Year, and you know, it's just been really lovely. Global
Amazing.
Impact Award, Brand Impact, something. Anyway, so yeah.
Too many to remember. That's good.
No, it's good, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
just like it embarrasses me a little bit, but yeah. So
No,
I'm
no,
grateful.
definitely. So it's obviously helping a lot of people and also it's being a good role model for the next women who are rising as well to see that
Yeah,
it's
and I want to
possible.
create a
Mm,
platform for them, you know, because we're
mm,
on 5 continents. It's a global business because it was always
mm,
set up to be that. Trying to get a bank account was a nightmare because they're like, "What do you
mm,
mean you're going to be in all the countries in the world?" I'm like, "I don't know what to tell you." So, you know, I'm like, I know how to get attention and to get eyes on something.
mm,
So if there's a vision I have, I know how to get people to pay attention to that vision. So I'm as many women as I can get on board to give them a platform to help them go global. We had a woman who came on as an ambassador for W Core, and she's Scottish, and she came on in October and had been in a big job, sales job, and then kind of had stayed at home with the kids. And we took her in 5, 6 months to pitching it to the Prime Minister of Scotland.
oh
You know, so
wow.
it's just been, yeah, it's wonderful. I'm very blessed.
Definitely amazing. So where can people find you?
Anywhere like Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, which I love dearly. And you know, just find me anywhere, DM me. I always read my stuff and I always reply if I can.
Amazing. We'll be sharing your links. Well, Geeta Sidhu-Robb, thank you for joining us today on the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. And if you write a book, I'll definitely be reading it. Help you publish.
Thank you for having me on.